Good afternoon, everybody. Today I'm chatting with Dan Symons and Stephen Hughes from C3 Metals. In this interview, we discuss what the bull thesis is for copper. We also get into the terrible market sentiment right now that exists for many junior mining companies. I also ask them about C3 Metals and some of the recent results that they've been getting in Jamaica, which I think is a really interesting jurisdiction to be mining for copper. All right, everybody, enjoy the interview. So Dan, it's the first time we've had you on. I have to ask you, you're obviously running a company that is focused on copper. When you get out of bed in the morning, there's got to be things that you think about when you think about copper that get you excited about the potential future for a copper market and why you are waking up every morning and trying to go discover a large copper deposit. So I have to ask you, what is your bull thesis for copper?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. You know what? I've worked 15 years plus in the precious metals space and really wanted to get involved in the copper space for the reason that we feel like there's going to be a sustained bull run in the copper market, largely driven by infrastructure projects going on around the world, as well as the green energy transition to the electrification of the world. So if you think about electric vehicles, for instance, the amount of copper used in each electric vehicle, but it goes well beyond that when you think about charging stations for electric vehicles and copper conducting that electricity. Governments then wanting to make sure that those charging stations are powered by clean energy sources such as wind and solar. So when we look at the supply-demand fundamentals for the copper market, you can see a clear deficit is estimated as soon as 2025, and it takes a long time to bring new copper supply online. So we're expecting a significant sustained bull run in copper, and that's why we're out to make a big copper discovery along with that window.
Stephen, you've worked in mining for years. Also, the first time you've been on with us. We just recently met at the Beaver Creek conference, and one of the things I noticed from just talking to dozens of companies down there is that the sentiment amongst many junior mining companies is not necessarily the strongest it's been. We can look at TSX Venture volume, and it shows that I think it was down 60% 2 years ago. Today, it's down 40% over the last year. So obviously things were fantastic in 2021, and it's basically been we've just seen the volume down significantly ever since then. How are you finding the Canadian junior market right now? What's your assessment if you were talking to other companies who are trying to manage their capital markets program of what's happening right now in the Canadian junior space?
Look, I mean, to me, it's simple. Cash is king. Right now, there's a liquidity problem out there. However, for those companies that are producing results on a contiguous basis, and those mainly are drill results, they're seeing their stock price rebound. There's those that are out there that are struggling with no cash and they can't produce results. And if you have no results and no news flow, you have no momentum for your stock. We're kind of in a different story, right? We've got two fabulous properties in Jamaica and Peru. We've got 2 drill rigs in Jamaica. We've been steady drilling for the past month and a half, and we can see contiguous news flow for the next several months. So we're in a good position in a bad market. However, we see this market turning around next year. Copper price will escalate, and we're one of the few companies out there that are producing long, broad intersections.
Before this interview, I was chatting with another investor about a company that we have been watching, and they just announced that they're doing a pretty large marketing program with one of the well-known marketing companies out there for, I think it was like $300,000 or $400,000. And this company's still at a grassroots exploration level. So there's never really been a drill in the ground on any of their properties. And they happen to be in one of the hotter sectors right now. And I know there's only a couple, but Stephen, you've worked with a bunch of mining companies in the past. When you are thinking about structuring a deal to take to the public markets, how important is it that you have something that has some actual meat on the bones before you expect investors to actually jump in?
I think it's critical right now, especially in markets like this. You need to have a project that's got previous results, preferably drilling, trenching, surface results, you must have momentum. You need to be able to take off and get immediate lift off in a market like this. In Jamaica, for example, we had work started back there in 1959. There was some scattered companies, including BHP, that came in 1992, but no one really did any pervasive exploration and proper exploration, I might add. Whereas we're taking a different approach. We're doing remap the entire block, extensive alteration studies, and now we've got our boots on the ground with the rigs. So it's all about having a project that's got meat on the bone, previous results, and you must see the future of the news flow, and all those things we have.
So let's take a step back here for a second and let's talk about C3 Metals. Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you. As we do with all of the new guests on this show, can you give us a high-level overview of the company?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the investment thesis for C3 right now is we have a 30,000 hectare block in a very strategic area in Peru where we're surrounded by major operating mines, major companies with huge exploration projects and development feasibility stage projects in one of the best top copper producing regions in the world. We've drilled so far the first target of over 15 that we have on that block. We came up with a nice tidy resource of 52 million tons of 0.5% copper, 0.2 gold right at surface. So that really supports the valuation of the company. And we have a lot of blue sky upside that we can add in the very near term with the drill results and the program that we have going on in Jamaica. In Jamaica, it's not a very well understood jurisdiction, but we're looking to put it on the map because, if we just took away Jamaica as the name of the country, and I told you that we have 20,000 hectares along a major fault that bisects the country, in a country where mining's the number 2 industry, where mining's been taking place for over 70 years. There's over 150 open pits in the country today with the support of government to encourage investment into non-bauxite metallic minerals such as copper and gold that we're finding. You'd say sign me up all day. So right now, it's really about educating the market on the opportunity in Jamaica. And from my experience with previous companies, we had to do the same thing when we were making a big discovery and delineating an ore body in South Carolina. And everyone thought we were crazy. What are you doing in South Carolina? In the U.S., you have to be in Nevada or Arizona or one of these other areas. Well, we took a company from a 22 million market cap and 7.5 years later sold it for over 850 million. So sometimes it's about being first movers in an area, and that's what we're doing right now in Jamaica.
Let's turn over to Stephen for a second. Stephen, you've worked on a lot of mining projects in the past. How have you found the regulatory body or the jurisdiction in Jamaica as compared to some of the other places you've worked in?
Look, that's an excellent question. So, I've been all through Indonesia, working there over the years, and, South America, Southeast Asia. I will say that Jamaica has been the easiest place I've ever worked. I'll just give you an example of the permitting. So we just completed the permitting for the 3 blocks for getting the drilling. The government's very supportive. It took us 2 months for each application, and now we're permitted for 5 years to drill in each of the blocks. The people are very friendly. We have great relationships with the government and the communities. And as someone that's worked in the big companies in the past, it's our mandate to do community corporate social responsibility programs. So we do that on a monthly basis. And I'll give you an example, like for all the sample bags that we use for setting out the drill core and all of our rock specimens, all of it is made in country. And that's a community program. So, look, Jamaica's been a blessing, and we're really happy to be there, and it's been real easy to work.
So you guys also just announced a maiden resource for your asset in Peru. Did that meet the expectations, and what are the next steps here?
Yeah, look, the resource was pretty much spot on for what we thought. Montana de Cobre is an isolated skarn body that sits basically by itself. Now, it never used to be by itself. It used to be connected to one across the Benoni Fault, which we call Creste Verde, another skarn system. Glaciers eroded out the center. So, look, we know that it's continuous, right? We've got Montana here, we got Creste Verde here. We believe all the fluid was derived from the Northwest. And so we're real excited to get back into Jasperoidy area in the future and start tapping in, looking in for stacked skarn systems, as well as the porphyry that we believe fed Montana and Cresta Verde.
So going back to Dan, Dan, a question every shareholder has when they look at or potential investor looks at when they see any junior mining company is, what can you tell us about the cap table? So both in terms of the how you guys are capitalized, is there any convertible debt on there, or any types of structures that are a little unique? And also the investor base. What can you tell us about any of the noteworthy shareholders you have?
Sure. Yeah. No, we're pretty clean on the cap structure. No debt in the company. I'm a firm believer. Putting debt on an exploration stage company is the kiss of death. You know, we're funded through equity. We raised $5 million in the spring. We're using that and committed it to this drill program that we're doing in Jamaica right now, where we're going to drill 8,500 meters. We've drilled about 2,500 meters of that program so far, and only announced assays for the first 600 meters. So lots of news flow coming for the next several months through the drill bit. In terms of the shareholders, we brought in some new institutional investors through the last financing. We have Equinox Partners out of New York now, so up over 8% ownership in the company. Ingalls and Snyder out of New York as well, over 8%. Resource Capital Funds over 5%. Smaller institutional investors coming in to the likes of Pathfinder, Jidley Partners. So we're up over, for a little 50 million market cap company, we're up over 30% now. Institutional investors, management insiders on over 10% of the company. And the retail float that's out there, a big part of that actually comes from Australia, because our chairman, Tony Manini, has been extremely successful in his career and has a bit of a following as an Aussie out of Melbourne. With people who have made money on things he's been involved in the past. So we have a pretty strong high net worth retail following out of Australia as well.
I asked Stephen this earlier, but how challenging has it been to manage your shareholder base and the expectations? I know when you're putting your neck on the chopping block with retail investors. When I was at Beaver Creek, for example, I heard a couple CEOs tell me that they received death threats. And I know that a lot of that's a function of the market, right? We've got the hottest asset class in the world right now is U.S. Treasuries. So it's the risk stocks have been pounded. Just in terms of managing your shareholder base right now, how challenging has that been? And what are you guys doing to sort of stay in front of it?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges, so I've been with the company for 1 year. I joined September of last year. The company previously had been very focused on the asset that they picked up in Peru before I got here. They started with 5,700 hectares, grew it to 30,000 hectares, got the first resource out. And it was really just last year that Steve and the team started looking at what the potential was in Jamaica, getting boots on the ground, doing the right level of work that you need to do, just to understand exactly what we were sitting on there. And the more that we look at it, the better it gets. So we've made the decision after me coming on board, and part of my diligence of coming into the company was to bring in my own geologist to take a look at all the information and data, signing a confidentiality agreement before joining, to understand what I was getting into. And when we saw what was happening there, I think one of the things that we've had to do over the last year is really transition our shareholder base and really taking a little bit of the focus off of what we have in Peru, not because it's not highly prospective, but it's a bit slower to get the things done that we want to get done there. Whereas Jamaica, the workability is extremely high and it's extremely prospective, and just educating our shareholder base around that. We now have our shareholder base very much aligned with where we think we can add the most value in the near term, which is what we're doing in Jamaica. I'll give you an example. We just had excellent news last week of a approved drill permit expansion where now in Peru, where we're permitted for an increase of 74% on that permit. It will allow us to capture the next two skarn targets immediately adjacent to the initial resource we put out just in the spring on Montana de Cobre. And the amount of shareholders who contacted me when that press release came out, and wanted to make sure that we weren't going to slow down the investment in Jamaica, and we're going to be focused there. It's just a big sea change where the company was a year ago. So, I think managing the shareholder base, I'm a firm believer in constant open communication. I do a virtual Q&A with myself as the CEO of the company every 3 months, that anyone can put me on the hot seat, ask me whatever questions they want. Very, very open and strong believer in strong corporate communications. And if we do that, then everyone's on the same page of what we're doing, the value we can add, and it makes your job a lot easier in markets like this.
Last question here. I'll turn this one over to Stephen. Stephen, for investors, potential investors, market observers watching, are there any timelines or milestones that we should look out for over the remainder of the year?
Yeah, look, we've got extensive news flow coming. As Dan said, we've drilled 2,500 meters. There's still 2,000 meters that hasn't been reported. We've got guests and visitors coming to look at these porphyry systems. Some of the best in the business are coming out to look. Next year, or by the end of the year, we'll have 8,500 meters completed, and all that news flow is going to be coming in over the course of this end of this year and the first quarter of next year. Look, we don't see us slowing down. We're dealing with 2 parallel porphyry belts in Jamaica, the Connors and Camel belts. We currently have rigs up at Provost and down at Camel. Basically what we're going to do is just keep migrating those rigs towards each other. And we're going to be testing anywhere from 0 to 500 meters, looking for the near surface 0.5% and above copper equivalent number. And then when we're looking deeper down, we'll be looking for the 0.8 copper equivalent number for block cave type or sub-level cave type operation. We're here for discoveries. We're not here to play games. And that's what I think that the investors need to look at. We're a serious group of investors.
Well, guys, thanks very much for hopping on here. I wish you guys continued success, and hopefully you guys can hop back on here in the future as the story continues to develop. All right, everybody, if you enjoyed this interview, please do me a big favor and smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Also, let me know what you think of the comment section. All right. Thanks, everybody.